The WWC, what the world is watching.
Boy, I hear a lot of one-dot gear. You're doing it wrong. You're doing it right. Let's get into it.
600 plus days of last war grinding, battles fought, lessons learned, strategies mastered. When we talk, you level up. Welcome to the Warzone Wrecking Crew.
Welcome everybody to the WWC QB18 here. I am here to talk to the free-to-play and low spenders on gear. So I've been seeing a lot over time about telling people they're doing their gear wrong. And it's very frustrating. You hear people say that one dot on your gear is, amateur move. It's not smart. Like you should be upgrading your gear to 2 dots and you shouldn't leave it at 1 dot and all this stuff. And, to me, it's just not like true based on actual numbers and stats that you have. So before we get into this conversation, let's first put in the right frame of mind of who we're talking to and the situations that are going to occur. So free-to-play and low spenders don't have the same issues that a mid-spender or a high spender have. Mid-spender, high spender get a lot of prints at once, and they actually have problems using their ore. They have a lack of ore to upgrade those prints because they get so many prints at the same time because they're buying prints. They may be emptying out their honor store, or they're getting things from the glittering events or bullseye event. They're spending money. Typically, free-to-play and low spenders don't get a lot of prints. They don't have a lot. So when they get them, what they want to know is how do they use them? What they do get a lot of is ore, because while they're waiting for the next prints to come in, their ore starts stockpiling and they don't know how they should use their ore to their best advantage in that case. Letting it sit in inventory is not the move to make. So, because you have this problem, if you had, let's say, 20 prints, what I say is upgrade 4 different sets of gear with 1 dot. What you can do with that gear, if you looked and let's say, even if you had 15 prints, in 15 prints, you'd have to make a decision. You could have 4 different pieces of gear with 1 dot, or you would be sitting there with one piece of gear. You'd make 2 dots, which is 15 of your prints, and then you'd still have to put 1 dot on one of the others because you only have 5 left. What I would do, and I'm building this out right now with my own third team, this is how I would build it. You'll see here, I have Williams with 1 dot and 1 dot for shield and 1 dot for radar. Murphy has 1 dot for shield, 1 dot for radar. So now this is such an amateur move for me to do, right? But it's not. And I'll explain to you as well so you can see the statistics of what you're doing is not wrong in how you're building. The only mistake would be not upgrading this gear. So let's get into it and dive into the numbers. People start pointing at you and they'll say, oh, it's only 300 hero defense and energy just is 10%. You're crazy to get plus 300. That's nothing compared to the 10% energy resistance. Listen, the energy damage resistance is 10%. That's correct. And that is good to have the energy damage resistance bumped up. Of course, if you're going against physical instead of energy, that's not going to help you much now, is it? Right? Because if you're going against, let's say, Swift, who is physical damage, how is that energy damage necessarily going to help you in that regard for the radar that you're pushing, right? Then all of a sudden you have to make a decision because then you're going to have to push your shield instead of your radar. That's why I say do 1 dot for each one. 1 dot for each one, and then you can have a conversation on which one you advance. But here is what we do. This hero defense, this would look a lot different if I said, hey, this hero defense is a 43% increase. Oh, all of a sudden I have your attention now. Now it doesn't say 10%, and now you start calling people crazy. Well, why is 43% so bad? Right, because this is a 43% increase. Yeah. Let's see how we get there. All right, I'm going to call this up. I'm going to put the level 40 gear for you right next to one another so we can compare apples to apples. And then actually, hold on, let me do this. And then I'm gonna put one dot, my 1.4 strategy against the 2 dot strategy. Okay? And now I say 1.4 because again, free to play low spenders, you probably get a lot of ore and not a lot of prints. So you want to know how to utilize your prints to the best of your advantage when you get them. Well, let's take a look at what you can use all that ore for to make it 1.4 and spread out your prints instead of stockpiling to one piece of equipment at a time. All right. Hero defense, let's start here. 627. It was 358. That is a 43% increase by leaving it at 1 dot. 43% increase right here. By taking this to a 2nd dot, because you're in such a hurry, this would be a 7.5% increase. That's it. That's what that extra 5 prints is going to do you here if you're not turning this into 2.4. If you're just leaving this, your prints, we spread it around here, 4 different pieces of gear, 5, 5, 5, and 5, right? So that's what it looks like there. Let's go further and take a look. Our hit points here, what do we increase from level 40 by using just the 5 prints and do 1.4? This increases 42.8%. Let's just call it 43%, okay? Between friends, let's call it 43. And then what's the increase here? 7.6%. That's what this is from here to here is 7.6%. And then we look at this, and 7.5, you're getting a 2.5% increase, a 2.5% increase, and this is only a 0.5 and a 0.5. Okay? So that's how this really turns out for your increases. So yeah, I think you'll see that turning it and spreading out your equipment, and while you're waiting on prints, using that ore to make it all 1.4 is quite useful and quite smart as you build and try to get the prints that you need. If you have 100 prints just sitting there, then sure, you may not have these issues. You may not have these problems because you're just waiting to just put, you can pump a bunch of prints in, but likely that's not your situation. You're asking because you're trying to spread out this gear because you don't have a lot of prints. And 5 prints goes a long way as opposed to having to have 10 prints, 10 prints, 15 prints, 15. This gets even worse when people tell you it's silly to do 3 dots. Right? Because I will get into that later on as well in a future video. But 3 dots to 4 dots, oh my God, well, I can't do 3 dots. It's 15 prints. I don't necessarily have 20 extra prints if you're free to play to push to the 4 dots. So the important strategy here is to use your ore. It's okay to do 1 dot and do 1.4 because this isn't just plus 300. It's actually a 43% increase that you're getting when you look at what it was before of 358. And now you're up to 627. So it is a good increase. This is a difference maker for your gear. And obviously, I'm not getting into kind of like, is 2 better than 1? Right? Obviously, in this game, 2 dots is better than 1. I think you guys know that. But at the same time, this isn't a situation where free-to-play and low spender have the opportunity to use all of these prints. You want to utilize your prints to the best of the best you can and the best of your ability. And so I say using the 20 prints to upgrade 4 different pieces of gear to 1.4 is a great strategy as you move forward. All right. I hope this was helpful for you in building your gear as you move forward and securing your decision that you're not a fool by doing that, and you're not making a giant mistake. So, love to hear from you in your comments. Please let me know how you feel. QB18 out.